sharing the screen now.
All right, here we go. Let me just pull up the correct stuff. All right, so I'm gonna see my editor and make sure we're in the right place. Cool. Okay. So to start out, just a quick overview of what we're going to do here. So I have a Git repository available. I'll type the link up on the screen in a minute, which is sort of a backbone of a metalsmith setup for generating a static site. So we're going to take that backbone and actually within the repo, we've got a README with a bunch of steps where we can just all walk through all the steps that I would sort of like normally go through when I'm setting up a static site generator. I'm using metalsmith in particular because it's JavaScript, which I think is a pretty commonly known language. So hopefully everybody will be able to read that or have at least a little bit of familiarity with that build code. And also because it's very customizable. So with metalsmith is kind of gonna let me walk through like all the different pieces that make up a static site generator and actually show you adding those things in. So yeah, hopefully we'll have a better understanding at the end of how a static site generator works and not just, you know, this is one way to make a static site. Okay, so if everybody can give me a little confirmation in the chat that you can see my screen and generally read what's on there, that would be wonderful. Are we good there? Thumbs up? All right, cool.
Yep.
So I would love everybody to head over to, I have all these Zoom controls in my way, but if everyone would head over to, no, it's not gonna work. There we go. github.com/views, that's me, /metalsmith demo. Can you, yeah, I shouldn't hit enter there, but if you could head over there, that would be great. I can also drop that in the chat if I can find the chat again. Yeah, I don't want to pull that up in front of everyone. But and then once you are there, you can go ahead and clone that repo. So
All right, can you share the link in the chat?
yeah, I will. I can pull up the Zoom chat again. This is every time I screen share on Zoom, I end up losing so many windows. So here we go. So that is that's where we're going. Okay, great, wonderful. And all right, and if you've got that, downloaded, we can check out the branch that is just called walkthrough. So go ahead and git pull and then git checkout walkthrough. And Mal asked, will the recording be shared?
Yes, we'll be sharing the recording. If you see I posted our Slack invite, so you could find the link later for the recording. So please join our Slack community and you'll find all the information there as well.
Cool. So if everyone has that, that directory all set, if we could head over to the README and we'll start at the top. So all these steps are all in the README. There's tons of good information about all the plugins that we're going to use, all the different tools that the plugins use. So definitely return to this. There's lots of info there. And if the repo is public, you can fork it, you can do whatever you want. But so we've cloned the repository. If everybody could go ahead and cd into the repository directory and run npm install, that should give you all your dependencies. If you don't have Node Package Manager, there is some information on the meetup site about on the site for this specific meetup on where to get that. And also, if this is going too slow, too fast, please let me know. Because I'm used to doing this in a room of people I can see. So yeah. All right. So if everybody has gone ahead and run install, sure. Cool. That's what it should look like. And we are going to start adding some content. So the thing to understand about metalsmith, and there is a link in that README if you wanna pop over to the metalsmith documentation. But it's basically just a system where we take a set of files and we run them through a set of plugins, which are just transformers that selectively decide like, hey, there is a file, it has some content, it has some metadata attached to it, and each one of those transformers does something different. So for example, we might start out with like what we're doing today, start out with some markdown files, which are great for writing blog posts, they're great for writing documentation, they're great for writing resumes, and we might then have a plugin to transform that to HTML. We might have a plugin that takes some, like we're going to use here Sass styles or less styles and compiles them over to CSS style sheets. We could have all kinds of things. We could have image processors in here. We could have, yeah, basically anything that you can do to manipulate a file system with Node.js, we can do it in here. But we're going to take a really basic approach. I love using Markdown for the content and static sites because it's pretty readable, pretty writable. You can always, it's syntactically correct to just include HTML right in there. So if if there's some style or formatting that Markdown doesn't provide, you can always just write straight up HTML in that content. And so the basic content files for our system are going to look something like, sorry, I keep getting kicked out of my editor, but they're going to look something like this. So we have this first line, and also you can follow along with this on the actual GitHub README. It's a bit easier to read, but so this top part is our YAML front matter. So YAML is just a like key value markup language, or a markup language, as it were. And then we have our content here in Markdown. So this is what our content files are starting as, just some formatted text and our metadata, which is coming from this YAML front matter. So the first steps here are, and my website will be a personal website for my cats, Freda and Artemis. They're wonderful, wonderful roommates, but they need to up their internet presence. So we'll be making them a static site today. So if you want to just go ahead, either you can create your own Markdown files, or you can just copy the ones that I have here. But go ahead and in the source directory of that repo, add a few files in this style. So the 3 dashes, your YAML front matter, title and description would be good data points to add to begin with, and then some Markdown. If you're not familiar with Markdown, again, there are guides linked to in that README. Okay, cool. And while you're doing that, I'm going to jump over to my build file. And just show you this. So this is what our actual build script looks like. This is where we're actually using metalsmith to process those files. So here's our step 1. We're just using metalsmith. We've given it a source directory. So we're telling it, this is where I'm going to put all the files that I want metalsmith to process. We've given it a destination directory. And we've just told it to include some metadata on our Markdown files to begin with. So once we've got some Markdown files, we can go over to another terminal window. Oops, sorry about that. Another terminal window, and we can run npm run start. Oh, maybe we can't. npm. I forget what I call it. Okay, yeah. So we're going to run npm run build. So I am also going to go ahead and create those Markdown files in a source directory. Which Emacs is not allowing me to do. I'm not sure why. I'm in the wrong place. Oh, screen sharing is really messing with my Emacs window. Sorry, guys. So we've got contact, index.md. and blank. But if we head over to our README, I can grab these and at least throw a couple of those guys in there. All right, cool. That's probably good for now. So just to pause real quickly in case anyone has some questions, if you want to throw those in the chat. npm run build. And you can, if you go to package JSON in the repo, you can actually see where those builds, those scripts are defined, what they're actually running. But I can spoil it for you. They're just running that build script. I don't know why this isn't set. Ah, right. This is something I forgot to do, but you guys should go ahead and comment out everything that is in those steps from step 2 on. In the build script. Sorry about that. Okay, we've got unexpected token from build.js 59. Yeah, so go ahead and make sure you comment out everything in the script that's under those step markers. Sorry, I forgot to do that when I blanked out the repo. Console log error or build complete. Is there another way I can write this since I think my machine does not understand? I'm not.
Yeah, so you said to comment out which lines 29 to...
Yeah, lines 29 to, I'm sorry, I should have done this to begin with. But if we go from lines 29 down to 56.
Thank you.
So does anybody have that running? Actually, I don't even have that running yet. Cool. Oh, and what I actually want is so I don't know if everybody caught that, but what we actually want to be running throughout this process is npm run build :dev, which is going to give us live reloading. So what that does, it'll just build each time we make a change to that source directory. So you don't have to run it every single time you make a change. So if I were to, for example, go to readme in here. Say I want to go to resume, add the content. You're going to see my build running again on the right. All right. So, do we have anybody successfully building the just those markdown files? Cannot find module metalsmith file metadata. Did I leave that in there? Sorry, guys. If that is the case, you're going to want to run in a terminal npm. Here, I'll type it in the chat. Npm I saved dev metalsmith file metadata. And you'll need to run that in the repository directory. What that means is at some point I didn't save that package in the package JSON, so it didn't know to install it when you ran npm I. Npm I save dev will tell it to both install that package and add it to your package JSON. And all right, making progress. I'm gonna go back over here. Resume for Freya. Cool. Okay, so I actually have to, here, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to share both my windows. All right, so now, if we have this building with just the markdown and that little static file server that's created in the build script when you run it in development mode, we'll be able to go to at localhost 8080, which is just the port I set. We'll be able to go to index.markdown. we'll be able to go to Freya resume. And we'll be able to see the content from these files. Now, we don't have any like parsing the HTML yet. We're not really doing anything with them, but you can see we've taken these markdown files. Now we've got the file content and we're writing it to our new build directory, which is getting served up from our dev server. So does that make sense to everyone? Okay. I don't have any more. I will type that in the chat. So it's npm run build dev will, oh, npm, sorry about that. Oh, that is a P. No, npm run build dev. That's going to run both your file watcher, which will rebuild whenever you have changes in your source directory, and that local development file server, which is serving up the files from the build directory. Okay, great. So yeah, you should be able to go to localhost 8080 and just see the content of those markdown files. It's still in markdown. We haven't transformed it or anything yet, but we should be able to grab that. Sorry for the slow start, guys. All right, so now moving on. And also if you're not necessarily keeping up, you can definitely head over to that, to the repo and see, like, walk through the README there and see everything that's happening. Also, if you go to the, instead of the walkthrough branch of the repo, if you just head up over to the main branch, you'll actually see the finished version of what we're building. So, spoiler alert, but you can skip ahead there. All right, so now we're gonna head back to our README and go through the next steps. So the next thing we need to do is actually start parsing that markdown into HTML, because we don't want our website to just look like this, right? We want some actual links in there. And so what we're gonna do is, again, use metalsmith to transform these files to HTML. The first plugin that we're going to use to do this, and like I said, metalsmith is just a series of plugins, those little file transformers. The first one is specifically metalsmith Markdown, which is just going to take those Markdown files and convert them into HTML. And then we are additionally going to use a plugin called metalsmith Layouts, which will allow us to provide a sort of a template for our HTML content to be inserted into. So, and the templating language that we're going to use is Handlebars. It's pretty easy to pick up. It's similar to like Mustache, a lot of templating languages that people are familiar with. But again, if you are not familiar with Handlebars, you need to brush up, you need to learn about the syntax, you can head over to handlebarsjs.com, which is a link that is linked to in the README. All right, so let's actually look in the build script and see how this is going to work. So what we're going to do is, now we're on step 2, we can say, all right, we want to use our Markdown plugin. And over here, this is also for step 2. So that's uncomment line 30. And then we also want to uncomment lines 40 through 47. So this is just a metalsmith script syntax for I want to use this plugin, and I'm passing it some configuration information, which is essentially I want to tell it where to find these layouts that I want to use, these templates that I want to use. I'm going to tell it that for any file that I don't specify a layout, that I want to use my default layout, which I will call layout. Say that 10 times fast. And then I've also given it a pattern. And this is going to tell it I am only interested in applying these templates, applying these layouts to files with an HTML file extension. And that's going to be important later when we start processing some other types of files. But for now, you can just understand that is in this sort of like order of these file processors that we're adding to our markdown, to our build script. We have using Markdown. So that's the file processor that's going to take these Markdown files and turn them into HTML files. And then we're going to, we'll talk about partials in a minute, but then we're going to go through and we're going to insert that content into these Handlebar.js templates, layouts. And so we want all those files that have been transformed from Markdown to HTML, we want them to then be run through these templates. All right, so now that we've got that all set, you may need to, anytime we make changes in that build script, you're gonna wanna restart your server. And this is gonna fail because we do not have any layouts yet. So it's trying to apply these templates, but we don't have any. So I've provided you guys with a example of a handlebars layout. As you can see, we've got, you know, your standard HTML, we've got your HTML5 doc type. We have a head with some important information. And then these braces here, this is the handlebar syntax for interpolation. And so in these templates, we have access to the content of the file, which at this point has been rendered into HTML. So that's available via a variable called contents. And then anything that we added to that YAML front matter in the Markdown file will also have access to those keys. So, you know, we can add a title to each of our pages. We can add a description, whatever the case may be. So you can certainly write your own template if you'd like, or try your hand at writing your own template right now. But if you don't want to, feel free to just copy paste the one that's available in the README, head over to our source directory and create our layouts directory. Oops, sorry, layouts. And this is going to be our default layout, and the file extension is HBS. Head in there and layout. Cool. So now, if everybody could let me know if they can see. Oh. Yeah, so this is not index.markdown anymore, it's index.html. And we have our index, we can see it's transformed to Markdown, and we have, or it's transformed from Markdown to HTML, and we have these elements that we added in that template. You can see we've got our title here, which is coming from the file metadata, that YAML front matter, and we can see, you know, we've got that nice head where we've added our, this is the live reload script, we have a description, some Google fonts that I added in there that we'll use later. So yeah, and anywhere we go, so we can go to Freya's resume. See that Freya's resume consists entirely of naps, but we've also got those nice layout elements available. All right, cool. So gonna pause again. If people have questions, struggles, actually, I am not in the Slack right now, just because I don't have the screen real estate and I can't show you guys my, risk showing you guys my work Slack, but do leave questions, comments, concerns in the cannot get index HTML is what I get at localhost 8080. Okay, so is your dev server running? So do you have this the script you see at the top right here, which is npm run build dev. When you run that, are you getting errors? Are you seeing it reload?
Sorry, I do see it reloading.
Mm-hmm. But you don't have index.html. Try localhost 8080/index.md and see there. Maybe you haven't uncommented the markdown parser yet.
Oh, okay, yes, that is.
Yeah. So those files, until you add that parser from Markdown to HTML, those files are going to be in Markdown. So once you go ahead and uncomment line, line 30 in the build script, those will then be HTML files. And yeah, once you uncomment those, save the file, and then restart that server, because you'll need it to run with the changed build script. All right. Cool. And at 7:30, all right, I'm going to carry on. So we've got, sorry, keep this chat out of here. So now let's head back to our trusty README. So now we've added that layout. It's reasonable to think, though, that maybe we want a different layout. Maybe we don't want every single page to look exactly the same. So there is a way to create multiple layouts and specify which layout we want each file to use. So this is my little my resume layout, which I've just gone ahead and added like a little small tag in here to display a last updated date, because that's pretty relevant when we're looking at a resume. So I'm going to go ahead and add a resume layout here. There it is. Down ticks. And I'm also going to go into my resume content files. I'm going to add layout is resume.hvs. And I'm also going to add that published on information. I'm going to do it in the other resume as well. So before we were relying on this default definition in our build script to say everything should use the layout layout. Now we can go in and say, you know, for specific files, we want to use other layouts. So now that we've done that, I should be able to head over to Freya's resume here, and we can rest assured that our information on Freya's napping skills is up to date as of today. Cool. So yeah, any questions with multiple layouts? Okay, great, working. Okay, moving right along. So now back to our README. So in both of these layouts, we have a head that is identical. So this head element, and we also have this identical nav element. If we're going to be, you know, creating a large site with like lots of different layouts, we probably want a way to, you know, if we need to add something to the nav, break that out and put it in a shared place so that, you know, we can dry that up a little bit. We don't have to maintain the same markup in a bunch of different layouts. And of course, there is a metalsmith plugin for that. So we have this metalsmith discover partials plugin. It's already in your build script on line 40 to 42. So make sure that is uncommented. And what that is going to allow us to do is, again, we have this directory where in our configuration, we're telling it where to find these partial files. Partial files are just handlebars files. So the exact same templating language that we're using for our layouts, but we're going to go in here and create partials. I'm going to make one for that head. And I'm also going to make one for the navigation. And I'm just going to literally pull these shared pieces of code. Oh, that's not actually the one I want. Let's go to our layout. Yeah, that's the full one. So I'm actually going to go ahead and completely remove that shared code from the layouts. Add it into here. Clean that up a little bit. And I'm going to go into that layout. And this is the handlebars syntax for including a partial. It's just those little interpolation bracket or braces plus our little, I actually don't know what the name of that greater than symbol is. And we can go into resume. We can do the same thing where we just go ahead and replace that with our shared partial. And we're going to do the exact same thing to our nav. Okay, move that over here. Everybody can share it. Just replace this in here with our little navigation. As well. Cool. Now, I mean, this isn't going to be exciting because it's going to be exactly the same. We've just made that code shareable between these two layouts. All right. So again, returning to our trusty README. Gone through our layouts. So yeah, we have those shared pieces replaced with references to partials. And I mean, these are really simple examples, but you can do all sorts of things with this ability to kind of like create partials. You can pass variables into partials. You can do iteration in Handlebars, so that you could, if you have a bunch of things, you could render a partial for each one of them. There's lots of sort of like powerful, useful things that you can do with these partials, combined with the layouts and the metadata that you can attach to all these files. So I hope you can kind of see how we're going from, we just have the basic content, the basic data of our website, and we're starting to build up all these tools for making it really easy to have a nicely maintained and easy to work with static site. Okay, and it's all pretty customizable. So if you wanted to use a different templating language, you could totally do that. If you wanted to use something other than Markdown as your initial files, you could totally do that. If you wanted to use, if you wanted to add, instead of partials to your handlebars files, you wanted to add functions, there's a way to do that as well. So we can use like all the functionality of these different systems and really build up exactly the things that you need and nothing you don't in our little static site generator. And it may be the case that you don't need multiple layouts. Maybe you want every page to be pretty much the same. Also totally fine. All right. So unless there are any questions, problems, concerns, I will continue with our next steps. Just checking for any raised hands. All right, cool. So moving on. Sorry, this Zoom is kind of mucking me up. Okay. So the next thing that we want to add, probably, I would assume, are some images and other assets to these files. Text files are great, but everybody likes pictures worth 1,000 words, all of those good things. So again, we have a metalsmith plugin to do this. This is a really simple one. All it does is it's going to copy a bunch of files that we've said, like, we don't want to transform these at all. It's just going to copy those over from our source directory and plunk them in our build directory exactly where we want them. So if we head over to our build.js file, got step 3, assets, and we can go ahead and uncomment that. And you can see the configuration here is literally just a source and a destination. We're telling it where in our source directory we're going to put these assets, and where we want them to end up in our build directory. Again, if I restart the server, once we've made changes in there, it's going to complain because I do not have an assets directory in my source, but I will add one. And just as a quick convenience, I've included some images in the repo for you guys. If you want to use those, if you want to add your own images, of course, feel free. But we can go ahead and copy these over. Let's chat out of the way. Copy these over to, actually, I can just much more quickly. This. Copy those right in there. Cool. Now, how do we actually add these into our website? So just to prove to you that those are in fact there, we had them written to our assets directory in our build file, so we're going to be able to see them right in here. And you can see an adorable picture of my cat. So our assets are there in the directory. Great, they're accessible to us. So how are we actually going to include them in our site? We can certainly just go ahead and drop them into our layouts, or in this case, I'm gonna actually head into our little navigation partial and add an image there. So yeah, just add a standard image tag, and we know that at our, it's gotta be /assets, we'll be able to find file. So if we then go back to Freya's resume, now we have another picture of cats in our little navigation. That's going to be, again, everywhere we go, because we have added, we don't have the block yet, because we have added it to that shared partial. Another way we can add images to our, oh, hello. Freya she knows she's famous now. Another way we can add images to our site is via that metadata. So if we go in here and we say image is a book or assets book, and we do similarly for Freya. Or that's Artemis. Oh well, we'll have them mixed up. That's okay. And say image news. We can then go into our resume layout, and we can add an image in here. So we'll have something like image source equals image. Oops, because this is still HTML. should never be leaving off your alt text, but for expediency, we'll do that now. And we should then be able to go to Freya's resume and see, well, this is a very, very large picture of Freya. Cool. A third way that we can add images to our content here is adding them directly into the Markdown. So again, back to our trusty README. There is a Markdown syntax for adding an image, which is just, it's the same as the link syntax, but with a bang in front. So if we were to add that to our actual Markdown files in the content section there, we would be able to add those images just right in line with content. All right, cool. So we are moving right along at this point. I will take a pause and see if anyone has questions, concerns. Hopefully this is working nicely for everyone. Yes, no. All right, well, not seeing any questions in the chat, so can move right along to maybe not everybody's favorite, but definitely my favorite, styles. So like I said, this is totally customizable. You can use metalsmith with all kinds of style plugins. We could use styles, we could use less, we could use Sass, we could certainly just add style sheets right into that assets folder and have them copied over to our build directory and just use them exactly like that. But I really like working with Sass. It's my favorite way to write styles, especially for projects like this, where we don't have like a big JS apparatus to do like CSS and JS or CSS module kind of stuff. This is like a perfect example of like the best place to use Sass, as far as I'm concerned. If you're not familiar with Sass, again, link in that README there, but it's just a language that has a little bit of extra features and compiles to CSS. It's a superset of CSS. So if, as we're going through, you want to add some styles and you just write them straight up in CSS, that will be completely valid Sass. So you don't have to worry about those extra features. Again, we're going to use a plugin. So let's head over to our build script and add that Sass plugin. So this is doing exactly the same thing, or exactly the same kind of thing we were doing with our Markdown files, where it's just select it, taking a set of the files in the source directory. This one happens to know that it's only looking for files with a Sass extension. We told the layouts plugin to only care about the HTML ones. Markdown knows to only care about the Markdown ones. So now we have this, we have another like compiler, transformer, whatever you want to call it, that's going to go in and look for our Sass files and then write them to CSS files in our build directory, because that is what we want to ultimately serve up as part of our website. So if we go back, restart your server. So we've made changes to that build directory, and we can go add a styles directory to our source directory. You can add this wherever you want in the source directory. It doesn't have to be a styles folder, but I like it there. And I'm just going to write an index file here. If you're familiar with SAS, you'll know that you can have index file, like files that will compile and then files that are just partials. It's the same, like underscore, leading underscore will designate a file a partial, and that won't be compiled directly to CSS, and then anything without that leading underscore will be compiled to a CSS file in your build directory at the same location it is in your source directory, or relative to your source directory. So we've got our index SAS file. I'm gonna grab some very simple styles in here. Drop them in there. This is doing really very little. You could also do things like if you wanted to use something like Bootstrap, or to use a set of distributed styles like your favorite reset, anything that's distributed through NPM or anything that you can vendor, you can certainly add that in this way. So if we wanted to be able to include SAS files from node modules in our node modules directory, we would go ahead and in the SAS configuration, and again, there's a link to the docs for that plugin in the README. So if you're curious about that, go read the docs. It's pretty straightforward, but you can just add your node modules directory as a location for the SAS files to be able to include SAS from those packages. I would advise adding specific node modules as opposed to the whole directory. But yeah, so yeah, you can pull in your Bootstrap, you can pull in your material styles, whatever is distributed that way. You can also just grab your favorite normalized.css off the internet and vendor it into here. That will work just as well. All right, so now we have these styles. Again, I'll be able to show you that we are in fact compiling those to CSS. If we look in styles index.css, you can see them. Great, beautiful. And so just like we did with our images, now we can add that style sheet into our layout. I'm actually going to do it again in that head partial because I want this everywhere. And I should then be able to see at least my fonts change. Yeah, great. And that's pretty much all the styles that I wrote. But you can see we can go over to contact. Yeah, and so now we're using a Google font. Very exciting. Now, again, I'm gonna take a minute and see if anybody has questions. Yeah, sorry I can't be in the Slack, but hopefully you guys are getting plenty of help. Not again. Okay. I will move on from here. And because I do want to leave us enough time to actually get these guys up on GitHub. So, and then of course we can talk about all the fun customizations and all the fun personalizations that we could do later. But one more, I would say, pretty essential thing that a static site generator needs to be able to do is handle things like blog posts. So things where, you know, you're going to write a bunch of pages and they kind of like belong to a collection. So that might be projects or pieces of work in a portfolio. It might be, yeah, like I said, blog posts. It might be like newsletters, or you know, if you're one of my friends publishes a literary magazine, so it's like issues. But you know, being able to have those collections of posts or pages or whatever that we can deal with both individually as the content, like just the way we're dealing with these pages now, but also as a collection where you can, you know, navigate to the next one, navigate to the previous one, have them all displayed in a list, whatever the case may be. So again, we have a metalsmith plugin to help us with that. We're going to use the metalsmith collections plugin. What this does is it allows you to, in a couple of different ways, but we're going to actually use the file metadata to do this, to designate one of your content files as a member of a collection. It also allows you to do like ordering and some other like manipulate some other characteristics of a collection. But what it's then going to do is in all of your files, it will add to the kind of global metadata, this idea of the collections and the members of the collections. And then for the files that are actually in a collection, it will give them things like information about what the next page in that collection is, or the previous page. So if you want to, you know, iterate through those, you can do so. So again, heading over to our build script, adding our plugin, and also just to be clear, because I know I didn't go over this initially, but all of these plugins that we're using are distributed as NPM packages. So in the beginning, when we did that Npm Install, you pulled down all those dependencies that included all these packages that we're using, and we're just including them in our build script, as you would any node package manager package. All right, so down to, oh, right. Collections is actually up here. It's important that collections be up here, and this is a little bit of a gotcha for setting up a metalsmith build. You have to have things in the right order. Because it is sequential, right? The processing of those files. So we need to, because we're adding information to the metadata about these collections, we need to create that before we go into our partials, our layouts, the file processing that's actually going to rely on that data being there. So yeah, if you ever find that you're trying to set up a metalsmith build, and you're just, you know, something's just not there, it's not working, you can't figure out why, try shuffling the order, or try thinking about like, okay, which plugins are consuming the information that is left on those files in that file metadata from which other ones, because yeah, it can be a head scratcher for sure. So anyway, here's our collections. We're going to add a little blog to Freya and Artemis's website. So again, we're just in here, the configuration, we're defining that collection. I'm telling it to sort by the title metadata. So we're just going to get these in alphabetical order by title. And the way that I will designate a content file as part of this collection is again in that metadata. So again, in our nice little README, we have a set of Markdown content that we can add here. So I'm going to create these files. What do I call it? Yeah. And add content to them. One more. Okay. And now I'm also going to add a, well, let's actually look at those guys. Confirm that they are in fact there. Great, lovely little blog post, but we don't have, we're not taking advantage of any of those things I mentioned, so we don't have like next post or previous post links. We can do that with a layout. So we just want those links on our blog posts. We're going to add a blog post layout. Where's there we go. Cool. Okay, and you can see here that we're expecting now on these particular files, see me a little bit better, it's very dark in this room. We're expecting a previous and a next, and that those objects, those variables will have an available path on them. The with syntax you see there is just basically a handlebar handlebar's way of saying if this value in the template variables exists, then go ahead and render this content, and if not, don't. So we're just adding that footer, and we want to go into our little blog posts and tell them to use that layout. Now we should be able to go to these guys. I don't know why this isn't copy loading. And oh no. Also added an author in here. But I'm not sure why we're not rendering those. Anyway, okay, yeah. So now we can say, let's go through and see each of the next posts and head back. But it would also be nice if we could have sort of a directory of these blog posts, an index, or sort of like front page of our blog. And we can do that as well, because this collections plugin is not only adding metadata to the individual files in the collection, it's also adding information about the collections to the global metadata that's available on every file. And what we're going to do here is, again, return to our trusty README, create yet another content file. So this will be our blog page. Or actually, before I do that, let's add our blog layout. So this is going to be the one where we include those all the links to the blog posts, which should be right here. And I will talk about this syntax just a little bit as we go over here. So again, this is just, if you head over to Handlebars, each syntax is part of that templating language where we can take something that is a list. And for each item in the list, we can read the information off that item, like it's sort of like a JavaScript object, key value store, and do some rendering for each item in the list. So here we are predictably going through all the blog posts, they're available, and just rendering a link. So using the path and the title of blog post to link to it. And now let's actually go into our blog post and add the content, which is pretty simple. That in here. So now we should be able to go to our blog, and we can see those links to our individual blog posts. Go to them. So we've built like a pretty reasonable personal site for a pair of cats here. And we are ready to, I think, go ahead and publish it to the internet. So for publishing, oh, I'm missing a link. Oops. Well, I will drop that in the chat, and I will certainly add it to the repo. But so I really like for hosting things like personal sites, project sites. I think GitHub Pages feature set is really great. It's, you know, it allows you to just host a public site straight from your Git repository. They handle all of the scaling, all the traffic, everything that you would worry about, all like security. I mean, I wouldn't put anything obviously very sensitive up there, but it's in my experience definitely the easiest way just to get a site up on the internet, and it's completely free. So the way we're going to do this, and there are two. I'm just going to pull this up for you. So we can understand this a little bit. But there are two types of GitHub Pages sites, a like personal site or an organization site, and then a project site. So for any project that you're hosting on GitHub, or you have stored on GitHub, you can create a GitHub site that, if you want to put your docs up on a public website, if you want to put a demo up on a public website, you can do that for every repository that you have, or every public repository you have on your GitHub account. Organization and personal sites, you can just have one per account. So one per organization, one per user, and they're a little bit different. And for the purpose of this demo, I have created a new GitHub organization so that we can create a GitHub site, and I can walk you through it. So if you want to use your personal GitHub for this, go ahead. If you don't want to create a personal site, like if you want to create this just like per repo or somewhere else, you can totally do that too. GitHub organizations are free. If you just want to try it out, you can totally spin up an organization and just try this out. So I am going to create a new repository. There is a rule when creating and I have to look up exactly what the name has to be. And so again, these personal sites, you can only have one per person, one per organization. And the reason, or part of the reason, is because need to pull up the doc. No, that's not where I want to be. Because you have to name it. There we go. Yeah, your username.github.io. So let's pop over to GitHub. Artemis and Freya. Sorry, move this out of the way. Be gone. And create a new repository. Make it Artemis. It does need to be private or public, rather. We're going to go ahead and create this repository. I am going to, all right, so that's good for now. What we need to do, though, is we need to put all of the files that we want GitHub to serve up as our new personal site into a docs directory. So for this development server, we have been building to the build directory. That's actually a directory that I've Git ignored. So if we were to push, the site right now, we would not, or if we were to push to GitHub right now, we would not capture any of the building that we've done so far. But if we go over to our build script, you can see, and this is, don't need to worry about this part of the script, but it might be nice to look into. This is where I wrote that little, or used a package to set up that little development server. But you can see if we go into our script args processor, if we run this without that dev flag, we'll go into here, or we will just run the build script without running any of the library loader or the development server or anything, and we'll be writing it, and we're passing in the docs directory instead of the build directory as that destination. Yeah, and we also won't have the library load port, so we won't be rendering that script. So all I need to do here in order to take everything I built and write it to that docs directory is npm run build without that :dev. Build complete, great, cool. If I go into my nerd tree over here, you'll be able to see that, as expected, I've got all those assets. I've got my blog post, HTML. I've got, yeah, I'm actually going to end up serving these up. Doesn't really matter though. And yeah, you can see here's my finished HTML. This is what the rendered HTML actually looks like once we've combined those content files and layouts. Cool. So now that I've done all that, I'm going to get I'd walk you through everything in there, but we're a little pressed for time and I want to leave time for questions at the end. So I'm going to git commit first site. Cool. You can git push that up to my my walkthrough branch. Oh, and now I also have to add it to, or I need to push to this new repository that I've created to be my repository specifically for this personal site for Freya and Artemis. So I'm going to git remote add. So I'm just now adding and naming this remote repository. I'm going to call it publish, I guess, and copy that address from GitHub. And git push you publish through. And that'll take a minute while it pushes that whole repository up. Beautiful. And if I refresh this GitHub repo, you'll be able to see that I do indeed have this repo. And if I go into docs, I've got all those files exactly where I want them. So in order to make this a GitHub site, I'm going to go into my settings. This is, again, if you head over to that GitHub Pages docs, it'll walk you through all of this. But if I go down to this pages section, I can say I want this to serve from that docs directory, exactly where we were writing all of our things. So if I wanted to go in and grab a, purchase a domain name and set up this site to be served there, I can absolutely do that here. I'm not going to walk through that today, but there are plenty of docs for how to do that on the GitHub Pages site. So we're gonna import to HTTPS. That's fine. Oh yeah, and I guess there's this publish privately. But we should be, your site is ready to be published. Cool. And I think that should be it. Yes. They moved the button, but okay, now my site is published. I can go to artemisandfreya.github.io and look at beautiful pictures of Artemis and Freya, learn about how to contact them, read all about their very interesting adventures in the blog posts. And yeah, so I know that was a bit quick, but hopefully that has given everybody kind of a good impression of everything that is available to you, or I mean, the sky's the limit, but lots of things that are available to you. Building a static site with metalsmith. And also, I mean, this is a really great tool to play around with, because you'll get sort of an understanding of what goes into making a static site generator. So I totally encourage everybody to, you know, if you're interested, go through this repo. You know, if you want to add a different markdown parser, or you want to compile your styles a different way, you know, get fancy with the partials you're using, pull in a style library like Bootstrap or something like that. Definitely try that out, because you'll get a good feel for, and I can stop screen sharing now. You'll get a good feel for everything that goes into a static site generator, and you'll have a better understanding of sort of what's going on if you're to use a different one, like I mean, Gatsby or Jekyll, or any of the very many static site generators that are out there. Great, cool. So, okay. Should the publish HTML always in the folder called docs, or can the source folder be called something else? So you, so the build folder, or like the dist folder, or whatever you want to call that, you can make that anything you want. It's just dictated by that destination variable in the metalsmith script. But if you want to publish on GitHub Pages, you either need to have the like when you push, you either need to have those the files that you want to be part of your site at the root directory or at the docs directory. So that's why I chose docs. That's just a limitation of how GitHub does that. Yeah, and that's why we were able to write, like during development, we were just writing to that dist or the build folder, and then when we switched over to the publish, the like production publish script, we did that to the docs directory. Yeah. One sec. There we go.
That was great. I just want to say it was a great workshop. I've never used that before, and it was interesting to learn about metalsmith. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Cool. I hope everybody was able to like kind of hang on there. I think about writing a static site in a couple hours, and it doesn't seem that fast, but if you've got to do it and talk at the same time, it does feel a lot faster. So yeah, and I will actually I'll post my contact information in the chat. So if you have any questions later, happy to answer. Definitely feel free to bop around in that repo. You know, show me what you build. You can even like submit a pull request, and I'll look at what you've made if you want. And oh yeah, and also, so I work at Vitally in New York. We're part of the team's in New York. Part of the team is scattered all across the country, but we are looking for junior to mid-level product developers. So if you work in JavaScript or want to work in JavaScript or TypeScript, definitely let me know, and I will post the link to those job descriptions as well. Cool. And yeah, thanks so much for having me, guys.
I'm just gonna disconnect that recording for now.
Thank you, Kara.